Welcome back. Justin Des here. I figured I pull up the PlayStation NCAA 14 one last time to kind of show you a little bit of what I want from the new EA college football game, and also, I guess, kind of break down what I want. There will be a separate video of what I think EA could bring to the new from what EA has from Madden that I think could benefit EA College Football, the new game. That will be dropping. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So, recruiting. Recruiting is one of the things, and I don't have College Football Revamp, so I can't show you, but in the new College Football Revamp, there is new kind of updated overalls where you can have guys be in the low 90s or high 80s. Because you can see from here, the highest overall prospect is 81 overall, 81, 80, 78, 78. Meanwhile, there could be guys that could be 88 overall or 92 overall. I've seen other YouTubers have guys 96 overall, which is cool, which is great, which is awesome. But, like Not the Expert says, I want them to regress as well. Like, they could be 81 and say they kind of struggle their freshman year. Instead of going up in training, maybe they'll go down to like a 76. Because let's be real. Just because you're an 81 overall and the number one 5-star recruit doesn't mean the very next year you're automatically going to improve. Some guys struggle their sophomore year. Some guys struggle all 4 years. Some guys don't blossom until their junior or senior year. So to me, that's why I think it would be great, and I'm very confident that they're going to have a little bit more of recruiting chaos as well. And I know they also talked about NIL is going to play somewhat of a part and whatnot, but I'm figuring recruiting is going to get overhauled. But I just want better overalls and fluctuating where some classes it could be stacked, like a bunch of 5 stars. They're all 80s to 90s. The lowest guy maybe like 77 overall. Or I want some recruiting classes, which I'll kind of explain more in my, Madden video, where it's not a good class at all, where it could just be, where it could be like the top guy is a 76 overall, 5-star. Like in this class, he could be the 20th, but there could be some classes where a 76 overall is going to be the best guy that you get. So that's what I'm kind of looking towards in terms of recruiting. So the next one is kind of conference stats and conference awards. So you could see there's the school records for passing, career. And I know it may not be like that because I understand with conference realignment and whatnot, it would basically kind of have to flip the conferences, like having USC go to the Big Ten, so no longer they're Big 12, So I think that's why they don't have it. But me personally, I would love conference records. And then you get like XP for it. Like, let's just say Dustin Miller. In a season, he broke the Big Ten conference record for 47 passing touchdowns. Let's say the very next year, some guy from Michigan breaks it. Then he gets XP for that. I also would love conference awards. Like, who is the Big Ten Player of the Year? Who is the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year? They already have Conference All-Americans. Why not add, for a little bit more in depth, hey, here's the Conference Rookie of the Year or Freshman of the Year. Here is Coach of the Year, Conference Coach of the Year. And plus you could get some XP for that. And to me, I just think it would be really cool because then you could be like, add resumes to your guy, especially for Road to Glory. You'd be like, yeah, I broke these conference records. I broke this record as well. And to add on top of that, I think it would be cool to have bowl game records. Like, Dustin Miller has thrown the most passing yards in a national championship game. I think that would be cool. Or I know it's hopefully it's a bowl game. You know, who had the most rushing yards in the Pop-Tart Bowl? And then you could look at records years and years later, like, oh, wow, I remember when my running back 15 years ago broke the record in the Pop-Tart Bowl game. I think it would add great depth to the game. I think it would kind of just be really cool to be like, wow, he really balled out in that bowl game, and it really showed because he broke the record. Okay. And then kind of the last one that I want to touch before I go back to recruiting is create your own rivalry game. Like, there's rumors that Team Builder might be a thing. I think it'd be really cool to name your own rivalry. Like, I'm showing Michigan and Ohio State. They are called The Game. Oregon State and Oregon's The Civil War. See, look at the Civil War. But like, it's like, oh, the rivalry game. Like, give us the name. Like the Civil War. Even if there is not Team Builder. Like, some of these have actual rivalry names, but I think it would be really cool to have a rivalry and name it. I would personally love a trophy, but I would understand if you don't get to customize your trophy. That's okay. Just give me like a name. We get to name the rivalry, or at least show me, hey, here's the rivalry record and who leads it. What was the biggest blowout? What was the closest game? The record's history. Like, show me the record of the rivalry. Like, for example, with Hobart versus Rutgers, I want to know, how many games have we played? Who leads the series? What was the biggest margin of victory? What was the closest margin of victory? Was there any games at a neutral site? Because in this series, I played it at MetLife Stadium against Rutgers. I want to know. We don't need to go into detail like, oh, this year this guy threw for 600 yards, but I would love that. But to me, if you just give me the bare minimum of, what meeting is this? Like, oh, this is the 7th meeting between the teams, and Hobart leads this mount to this mount. The largest victory was 45 points this year. The closest margin of victory was this last year's meeting. This was the score. I think it would be really cool, really immersive. Plus, I think it would be really cool to make your own rivalry. Now, how would you make it? To me, I think after a while, the game should just be like, hey, this is your rival. Like, I think in NCAA 14, now it says Georgia Tech because I replaced Georgia State. But let's just say after you play a while, it goes to like, hey, because I think in this game, I could be wrong, but when you would play certain teams after a while, it would be like, hey, this is your rival now. I think it'd be cool. And then you could just go into a screen, be like, hey, we're going to call it the Joe Schmo rivalry game. So then it will show you the history of the Joe Schmo rivalry game. So then it could also help recruits in that area. Say, like, you're both locally, like Hobart is in New York, Rutgers is in Jersey, or like with Oregon State's the same rivalry. So then you could be like, hey, come to my side. We're dominant in the Joe Schmo game. And that will help with recruiting. Finally, give me transfer portal chaos. I know transfer portal is going to be in the game, but I'm showing you an example. Like, obviously, like, I want more juniors and like redshirt sophomores and stuff to go to the draft. I think that's a huge part. I'm hoping that kind of goes hand in hand. But let's say Dwight Daniels stays. So you're telling me Chris Cooper's going to want to stay as a backup. Because to me, and I get this was an older game, it's 10 years ago, but you're telling me Chris Cooper as a redshirt freshman is going to not only want to sit behind Robert Moore, but sit behind Dwight Daniels for another year? No. To me, I want a guy like Chris Cooper should leave, should transfer. It didn't in this game because transferring, you would have to sit out here. But with the transfer portal and playing it immediately, I'm hoping a guy like Chris Cooper, you could make an argument, Robert Moore being a redshirt sophomore, they transfer. Reggie Brown should absolutely transfer. But we can say, oh, because in this series, Trey Wells is starting, a freshman. Timothy Davis, I know Eric Lau is going to leave, but like Timothy Davis, he transfers for his last year. I would be okay even with grad transfers. So then Eric Lau could transfer. I think that would be cool, but I understand that they may not allow it. So, but let's also say like wide receivers. Jason Clark, I would want him to transfer because he's got a bunch of guys ahead of him. I mean, 2 seniors, but like I would want Marcus Carlson transfer. Like, give me the chaos of not just like this guy, Kellen Roach, he transfers. Or one of these redshirt freshmen, they transfer. Like, give me the chaos of the transfer portal. So then it feels more rewarding when you do land a guy. But then also might have to have the risk of losing a guy. Like, in this situation, you're hoping Dwight Daniels leaves. So then Robert Moore doesn't transfer. But if he does transfer, try to convince Chris Cooper to stay or Reggie Brown to stay, even though you might have to bring whether freshmen or you might have to go to a different team to get a guy in the transfer portal. But I would love a personal tab of just the transfer portal. And, you know, I would be okay with potentially some guys transferring during the season. I think that would be really cool, but I would be okay realistically if just at the off season there's just a buttload of guys you try to convince them in the via the transfer, like not to transfer, and then you get a whole list of saying, hey, here's the guys that transfer. But me personally, I would love if, let's say, Robert Moore transfers week 7 and then Daniels gets hurt, so then it's basically Cooper or Brown. And let's say Cooper, you're redshirting, so then you have to get rid of that red shirt. Like, give me that so it's more immersive and give me drama and chaos. Because college football is kind of chaotic. And to me, the more chaotic, the more realistic it is, the more fun that I'm going to have, but also people who are watching this video and my content. So that's going to wrap up my NCAA kind of wish list. It's a little bit off track. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And until next time, you guys have a good one. Peace.